vegan egg roll recipe.
This will serve as the meat. It's a plant-based sausage. It's made with Yukon Gold potatoes, apples, and rub sage. We're going to cut open all the sausages and then we'll place them into a blender. Once you put it in the blender, which I like to use my Ninja because it's just awesome, you pulse it a few times just to crumble it, just to get it to look like meat, ground meat almost. This is rice vermicelli noodles, also called cellophane noodles, and this is optional. You don't have to put this in there. But you can purchase this at any Asian market that you find out there. At this point, you want to put on a pot of water and start boiling it for the noodles. While the water is boiling for the noodles, you want to start slicing up your cabbage into real thin slices so that it can be small enough to eat in the egg rolls, and boil another pot of water after you rinse it off. You're going to rinse it off really well and then put it in a different pot and fill the pot up with just a little bit of water at the bottom. At this point, we add a little bit of salt into the cabbage just so that it starts to drain the water out of the cabbage. We have a little bit of water at the bottom of the pot to keep it from burning, and we will cook it down until it's blanched somewhat. And then we'll show you here shortly what it looks like once it starts to drain the water. The salt pulls the water out of the cabbage, and it doesn't require a whole lot of water because it already drains the water out of the cabbage. So you only need a little bit of water at first just to keep it from burning while it's cooking. And as you pour the salt on there, it starts to drain the water out of the cabbage and pulls it on down. And so you'll start to see that it fills it with water. We boil some hot water in another pot, and then we pour in our rice vermicelli noodles, and we just boil it for only a few seconds until it softens. We strain the noodles and we will rinse it out in some cold water. And once you rinse it out, you want to start to cut the vermicelli noodles so that it doesn't start to stick together with the very long length that it has. Some folks may not want to use tap water, so you can definitely use distilled water at this point. As you can see here, it's very long and cellophane-like. You just want to cut it and make it kind of easier to work with. And the way that this looks now is really the time in which you want to put it into the meat. But the meat's not ready yet, so we're going to set it to the side. Now we're going to pour some, what I like to use is grapeseed oil because it can handle high heat. You don't want to use anything like olive oil because it becomes toxic. So you pour the grapeseed oil into the pan where we've got it on medium-high heat. And we're going to saute the garlic and the onions first. That's my base that I always work with, is minced garlic and chopped onions. So at this point, we want to mix in our vegetable bouillon base. I put in about a tablespoon worth, and this better than bouillon vegetable base. It's made of all veggies, and it adds a really nice salty flavor into our mixture here. So you want to just mix that in with the onions and the garlic base. Now at this point, we're pouring in our vegan meat, And we're going to mix that in really well with our onions and our garlic base. And it's going to add in that saltiness from the garlic base already. What we're going to do is we're also going to add in a few more seasonings into the mixture.
So we're adding in our parsley flakes. Then we're going to add in our black pepper. And you can season it however you like to season your meat. So you just use your own flavors. But in this particular case, we're adding in some cayenne pepper. We're also adding in some sea salt, and anything extra that you would like to add in, feel free to add in at this point. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add in just a little bit more of the grapeseed oil because the meat was starting to look dry. So if it starts to look dry, you can moisten it a lot more with the grapeseed oil because remember, this is not real meat. So we're having to add in that fatty oil to kind of give it that meat look and flavor and feel. So just use your own discernment and judgment. Now at this point we've turned the heat off of the meat and we're rinsing off our carrots because we're going to pour that into the meat mixture and let the natural heat just kind of wilt the carrots. Not so much because we want to kind of keep our carrots as raw as possible and take some of the flavor from the carrots. Okay, now this part is optional. You can substitute this for a totally different vegetable if you like. It's up to you as an individual whether you want to use the carrots or not if you're following Dr. Seavy's diet a little bit more closely. I'm okay with using the carrots. I have a different perspective. So you as an individual, you have this option at this point to switch it out for whatever vegetable that you would like to switch it out to. Now mix it in really well, and then what we're going to do is we're going to also add in the cabbage into this mixture. Again, the heat should be off because we want the mixture to start to cool off in getting it prepared for adding it into the wrappers. If it's too hot, then you will bust open the wrappers. So we're going to mix everything in, and I'm not at my normal location where I would put this in a much bigger pot, so I tried to put it in the pot, but what I should have done is I should have just went ahead and poured all that into a bowl, a large bowl, and let this mixture cool down. You can even put this mixture into the refrigerator to help it cool off faster if you like, to speed up the process, and we just start to prepare. And now once you get the mixture mixed together and put it in the bowl and let it cool off, that's a good time to set it aside, let it calm down, let it cool off, and then you just clean up your mess, get the kitchen straightened up. At this point, it's a nice good break in between, and then start preparing the egg roll wrappers, getting it all cut up and ready to go. I pull out a plate and I have a bowl full of water, which I don't have that recorded, so I'm just telling you this process so that you have it all ready to go. And then we'll get ready to show you the part where we start to put the batter into the egg roll wrappers.
Now after the mixture is blended together and you've got your noodles already set to the side, and you can pour those noodles into the bowl, and then you're going to mix it in really well. Typically what I like to do is I like to time it in which the noodles is ready right when the mixture is done, so that way the noodles aren't so sticky. But you know, I'm visiting my parents, so I'm working with what I have here, and so this was the best that I had. and I went ahead and I just started mixing it all in. As the noodles were sitting to the side, it might have been a little dry, so I had to kind of work it with a knife and a fork and cut it into the bowl. And once I get it mixed in really, really well, then it'll be ready for us to put into our egg roll wrappers. So as we start to wrap the egg rolls, I failed to show you the egg roll wrappers, and you can purchase this at Walmart in the vegetable section, or you can go to an Asian market. You take a teaspoonful, maybe a teaspoon and a half, something like that, to put into the egg rolls, and then you're going to tuck underneath. Well, you keep it in an angle, like a diamond shape angle, and then you're going to roll it where you tuck it, as you can see here. You're going to keep it tucked in pretty tight, and then when you seal it with water. They call it egg rolls because you typically seal it with egg, but because this is a vegan recipe, we're just going to seal it with water. And there you have it. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you get it, you got it.
I think my fingers is the nastiest thing it is. But that's okay.
It must be some good
The
egg
egg
rolls.
rolls is the bomb. And I can't help it but lick my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't lick fingers.
Yeah, thank you. I take that as a compliment.
Yes, ma'am, it definitely is.